Bluey. 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 But what is Bluey? Bluey is an Australian children's television show about a family of anthropomorphic dogs. And it might be unironically one of the best shows out right now. Yeah, you heard me right. A show for 5-year-olds is unironically one of the best shows to come out in the last few years. Hello everyone, I'm Finn. Welcome back to Finn Films. Join me today as we're talking about how unironically good Bluey is. It's actually kind of crazy. It feels like Bluey really just kind of like came out of nowhere and basically took over the world. I mean, seriously, it literally feels like everywhere I go, Bluey is there. I swear I can't walk into like basically any major store without seeing some kind of like Bluey merchandise or like Bluey collab. Now, I'm not a parent, at least not that I know of. So logistically, I have like no reason to ever watch this show. But after some convincing from my cousin and her 3-year-old daughter, I decided that me, a fully grown man in my late 20s, was gonna watch Bluey. And wow, was I completely wrong about this show. Bluey was originally created in 2016 by Australian Joe Brum as a pretty simple idea to make an Australian replica of the kids show Peppa Pig. His idea was basically to create a kids show that focused on the everyday life of an Australian family through the lens of an anthropomorphic blue heeler family, and the show went basically insanely viral, spreading to over 60 countries in really just the matter of like 2 to 3 years. The BBC, the British Broadcasting Company, would acquire the global rights to the show as it was taking off in 2017, a move that would end up netting them millions upon millions of dollars. The BBC reporting a revenue of $2.7 billion dues in the fiscal year 2022 and 2023, much of this growth being a result of, you guessed it, Bluey. To give you another idea of just how successful Bluey is as a show and just how much money that this show is raking in 2020, a Melbourne toy company called Moose Toys signed a deal with the BBC to become the exclusive toy maker for Bluey merchandise. Just a year after this deal was done, Moose Toys saw its revenue jump by an astounding 25% to around 800 million Australian dollar dues, which is somewhere around 520 million American dollars at the time of recording. This revenue continuing to climb year on year. I mean, Moose Toys as a company has been riding this Bluey bump so freaking hard that in January of this year, 2024, they announced that they would be teaming up with Mr. fucking Beast of all people to do a toy collab. All of this is to say that Bluey as a show is obviously extremely freaking popular. So I decided, what the heck, why don't we give it a watch, and let's see what all the fuss was about. As I said earlier, the general plot of Bluey focuses around the everyday shenanigans of Bluey, a young girl blue heeler, and her family, her little sister Bingo, and her parents Bandit and Chili, along with an assortment of Bluey's friends and their parents. And yes, everyone in this show is a dog. The episodes all function on relatively the same type of formula. They are surprisingly really short, somewhere between like 7 to 10 minutes long, each episode in typical children's show fashion, generally teaching some kind of lesson, whether it be moral, such examples being varying from following rules, the importance of sharing, and even the influence of technology, just to name a few. More often than not, the characters' emotions serve as a kind of central conflict for a given episode. It's not like there's like a main antagonist in Bluey, even though that would be hilarious. What would we call her? Greenie? For a show directed at really such a young audience, as I believe the intended audience for Bluey is like preschoolers, kids between the ages of like 3 and 7, something like that, I was actually genuinely shocked at just how entertaining and funny Bluey can be. Primarily to me, the character Bandit, aka Bluey's father, he is depicted as a positive father figure and a real mega goofball. Bandit oftentimes making a fool of himself for the amusement of his kids, for example in the episode Magic Xylophone. In this episode, Bandit, the father, pretends that this xylophone has the powers to stop time. The kids using the xylophone to play all sorts of pranks on their father. The meta joke being, of course, that the xylophone is actually not magic and that Bluey's father, Bandit, is actually allowing them to do all of this because, well, he's just that good of a dad. The main theme of this episode, the thing that is learned in this episode, is really the focus on Bluey learning the importance of sharing with her younger sister, something that by the end of the episode she seems to get. One of the main takeaways that I get from Bluey as an adult watching it is that this show really feels like a blueprint for parenthood. Now, obviously, I'm not a parent in the traditional sense, but I do have 8 cats, so I think that makes me qualified to speak on behalf of all parents. Some of the funniest moments of this show, to me, are really all these like little side moments that either are happening in the background or are like not the main focus on our screen. For example, like in this scene when the kids are playing keepy-ups with the balloon, and their mother Chili casually walks over to this potted plant, putting the dirt that the kids knocked out of the plant back into it. I don't know what it is, but there's just something so funny about the combination of her facial expressions and her just casually doing this in the background while her kids play in the foreground. As well, there's just something so funny and amusing about watching an Australian kids show and hearing all of the ridiculous Australian accents and Australian slang and lingo. Shout out to all my Australian homies out there. I don't know what it is, but your guys' accent and your guys' slang is absolutely f***ing hilarious.
Okay, I'm gonna cook brekkie, kids.
Oh, brekkies. That also might be like one of the funniest knock-on effects of Bluey becoming so insanely popular and mainstream around the world, as now we have all of these little toddlers around the United States running around speaking in an Australian accent using Australian slang. I'm just waiting for the day that some 9-year-old kid walks up to me in a Target and says, "Oi, bruv, you stole me f***ing lighter, mate.
Can I have my lighter back now, please?"
Easily one of the funniest episodes of Bluey that I think I've seen so far is Season 3, Episode 3, the episode titled Unicorse.
Bluey, he's the most annoying unicorn in the world.
Guilty!
The premise of this episode is relatively simple. Chili is trying to get Bluey to go to bed, but Bluey is refusing, so she decides to read her a book in the hopes that it will make her tired. When her dad Bandit all of a sudden busts out this sock puppet persona called Unicorse, a silly unicorn with the catchphrase, this episode is like absolute chaos, and I love it. It gives me a lot of like Adventure Time vibes in how the humor and the chaos seemingly are intermingled. Chili is getting mad at her husband for distracting them from reading the book with his insane Unicorse character shenanigans, as Chili just wants to put her child to sleep. At one point, Unicorse tries to spoil the end of the book that they are reading, only for Chili to stop him, but then literally just like a few minutes later, he just blurts out the ending of the story. And I don't know why, but this just had me absolutely cracking up, laughing so hard. It just feels like an obvious reference to the spoiler culture that has permeated in our society. I was actually like super shocked at how funny and entertaining this show is. I mean, obviously there is a ton of kids shows out there that are entertaining for adults. I mean, think like Avatar: The Last Airbender, one of the greatest animated shows of all time that was technically originally made for a teen audience, but to me, this show is just absolutely transcends that. The same can be said with like many other kids show. SpongeBob is a classic example of just a comedy show that kind of transcends the age gap that it was originally made for. The same can be said for a show like Adventure Time, as well as like hordes of anime. Adventure Time being a show with an example of like ageless, timeless humor to me that really transcends the age profile like SpongeBob of like the intended audience that the show was made for. Still, with something like Bluey that was originally aimed for like very young kids, like preschool, kindergarten, first grade kids, I was genuinely shocked and surprised about how funny and entertaining a lot of the episodes can be. Now, they all aren't the most entertaining and funniest things ever, but in general, the baseline for the Bluey episode is actually pretty freaking funny. I was completely expecting this show to be something like, I don't know, like Caillou or Teletubbies, a show that is like relatively extremely simple. It doesn't really have any appeal to any older audience at all. Its main appeal is to kids, and if anything, those kinds of shows I feel like are really dumbed down for a younger kid audience. But quickly I realized that Bluey was nothing at all like any of these contemporary shows. There's a real cleverness to the humor and the characters in Bluey, as well as many of the plot of the stories that really completely took me by surprise. One of the things that I think Bluey really does well is how it teaches lessons through play, or what people call like play-based learning. As oftentimes Bluey and her sister and her friends will learn a lesson from the show through a game or through their playing of make-believe. As a kid who grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons and other like role-playing games, play-based learning is an absolutely amazing way to help teach kids skills and lessons, but in a more fun, interactive way. This realization of play-based learning, especially within like the tabletop role-playing game scene, is one of the factors that led to the modern boom of Dungeons and Dragons and really just role-playing games in general, as there have been several studies over the last few years that show just how much tabletop role-playing games can help in the development process, as it gives kids a kind of risk-free platform to not only express themselves, but make mistakes and learn how to team build and work together, really just to name a few things that it helps with. Yeah, we've come a real long way since the days that Dungeons and Dragons was thought to turn kids into Satanists. D&D side tangent aside, what I'm really trying to say is that Bluey is unironically a good show. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video or learn something new, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, as your engagement on these videos is like the easiest way to help support me and help put the videos into the algorithm. Let me know your thoughts on Bluey in the comment section down below. Have you watched it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? What's your favorite episode? You guys know the drill. Let me know in the comment section. As always, guys, I hope to see you in the next video. If you did enjoy this video, then why don't you check out one of the videos on screen now. You know the drill. Drink your water, hug your mother. Until next time, peace, love, Audu.